I think that we can start now, and we will, of course, wait for the ambassador of Germany. He has some problem with traffic jams, and we can start because maybe he was adapting himself to the Roman timing. However, 20 minutes are gone and we have to start. Well, let me express a warm welcome to everybody, particularly to the incoming students, the colleagues, the students of the LUISS, all the guests. Thank you very much for being here. We have decided to organize this year a Europe Day, focusing on the main priority of the LUISS, internationalization. By internationalization, we mean not only internationalization of the students, but also the internationalization of the professorship and the teaching staff, and also the life, the everyday life of the campus, and to show to everybody that LUISS is particularly internationally open, and by its activities underlining the role of the English as a main foreign language, we try to increase our openness and our commitment to internationalization. We don't want to draw the attention on what has been already achieved, but we understand the today meeting as a kind of contribution to go ahead, to make further steps in the internationalization. This year, we have decided to focus the Europe Day on Germany and Europe. Why? Because Germany, whatever we think about the relationship between Germany and Europe, is the first economy in the continent, is particularly relevant for the future of the European integration, particularly relevant for our future, for the future of our students. That is the reason why we will focus part of our meeting particularly on deepening the relationship, the controversial relationship between Germany and Europe, beyond stereotype, beyond, let me say, pictures which are a little bit oversimplified about Germany and about Italy. And our aim is to strengthen understanding, mutual understanding, and in this framework also mobility flows of students incoming and outgoing from German universities. We have the structure of our day is shared in 4 panels. The first panel, the introductory panels, we will have the honor to hear our rector, Professor Egidi, and the ambassador of Germany. We are waiting for him. And I will say some, Ambassador Schäfers is here. Please, Ambassador, please sit here. Hello, well, lupus in fabula, we were about to welcome you. And herzlich willkommen.
Grazie, danke.
It is very important for us that you decide to enhance the level of our meeting by your presence, by your contribution. We will have a first panel opened by the rector of the University LUISS, Professor Egidi, and you are our honor guest for this meeting. Thank you very much for coming. We are expecting from you a very committed speech in favor of European integration. We know that you have a strong background in Brussels and in Paris as ambassador, and we are sure that you will also bring some concrete ideas regarding improving the mobility flows between Italian and German universities. And the cooperation has to be improved. It's quite flabbergasting, it's quite impressive that the contradiction between the fact that the very fact that Germany is increasingly the most important country in Europe, not only in economic terms, on the one hand. On the other hand, we are witnessing a very low rate of mobility. Really, dozen students, no more. That is this is a scandal. We have to improve it. We are really committed to improve it. And this disappointing situation is neither in the interest of Germany nor of Italy. Certainly not in the interest of the Italian youth, notably of high-skilled Italian students like the LUISS students. So let's make a serious attempt to enhance these poor numbers by new ideas and new endeavors, enhancing the mobility. More has to be done, and I think even students in the room can bring some ideas. We have incoming students, including from Germany, and they can also bring some ideas. The panel will be concluded by Mr. Dr. Dalmonte, who represents the European Union as Vice Director of the representation in Rome, who has spent also 30 years in Brussels in many DG of the European Commission, and will provide the first feedback after your presentation. Then we will have a second panel, which is this scientific panel, particularly opened by Professor Risse, eminent professor of political science, international relations, Freie Universität, Otto Suhr Institute. And the comments will come from the three departments of LUISS: political science, Professor Morlino, Prorector Morlino, in economics, Professor Manzocchi, in law, Professor Ferrari. So we will have a discussion about, let me say, try to address the question which is in the very first page of the today newspaper, which is not only an economic question. You know, in the newspaper of the world today, in English press, French press, Italian press, the European Commission took the initiative of analyzing in a more deeper way the exceeding trade surplus of Germany on the 6%, and on the other hand, the late recovery of Italy in terms of youth unemployment, in terms of poverty, in terms of public debt. So we could not choose a better topics for the Europe Day. Germany and Europe is really at the center of the actual agenda in Europe. The third and the fourth panel in the afternoon, chaired by Professor De Petris, will focus on academic cooperation, existing projects, double degrees, Erasmus and so on, opportunities provided by the DAD, and I thank particularly Professor Bergman for this contribution to our Europe Day, and also further opportunities. Then a final panel will focus on the relationship between education and labor market, particularly the possibility of careers, European careers, and particularly possibility of labor market opportunity provided by Germany. So we will have a very interesting program, a very good day. I hope everyone will enjoy it, and you, also the public, can provide a contribution. Is an obligation which I do with pleasure, is to thank all the people who provided with generosity and help for organizing this day, the members of the organizing committee, Dr. Bergman, De Felice, De Petris, Jomi, the students' organization, Micali, Tettoni, Viganotti, and others members. And also the professor who helped by organizing it, the President of the Department of Political Science, Maffettone, De Mucci, Di Giorgio, President of the Department of Economics, and several students and other people. Thank you very much for helping us. Last but not least, this event would not be possible without the support, a strong support by our rector. Professor Egidi was really constantly supporting this initiative since the first idea 6 months ago. Thank you very much, Professor Egidi. You have the floor to open our meeting and introduce Ambassador Schäfers. Thank you very much.
So, good morning, everybody. You are really warmly welcome here. And first of all, I want to welcome Ambassador Schäfers, Dr. Dalmonte, and all the other colleagues that are here in front of me. not last but not least, the students and the incoming students. I'm very impressed by the number of you, because the problem of our policy, which is a policy to increase the international relation, is to have enough incoming students. Because our students that want to move abroad are not a problem in terms of willingness and in terms of opportunities. But vice versa is not that easy. So it's important for us to be able more and more to be attractive to this kind of students. And in order to be attractive, we have to offer something which is specific, important, and is not only the beautiful area in which we are, Rome, but something more, which is supposed to be high level of studies and opportunities for the future. So far we have developed many initiatives in the international setting, even though I agree with Professor Telò statement, which is that we do not have enough relation with the German universities and the German students, of course. And that's a sort of strange, let's say, contradiction, because Germany is the leading country now in economic terms, even though in political terms the things are much more complex and much more, let's say, to be developed for the next future in order to achieve an equilibrated situation in the center of Europe. But anyway, it's a sort of complete differentiation which has to be resolved for the future. So we want to increase the number of students incoming and this Italian student willing to go to German universities. So far we have more than 140 international partner universities all over the world, Europe and South America, Brazil, and China, mainly China now. We are developing our activity in China, and something also in other countries in the Far East. Unfortunately, moreover, we have the core of the Europe, which is not enough represented. So how to move in that direction? This initiative, and I want to say thanks to Professor Telò activity, is the first step, and every year we will repeat a similar, let's say, a meeting in order to understand where we are and where we want to move, how we want to resolve the problem and the difficulties that we have to cope with. I give you an example of activities that we can develop in terms of relation with Germany. LUISS is joining now to the program Hochschuldialog mit Südeuropa 2013, which is aimed at responding to a difficult crisis that has been affecting many countries, including Italy, of course, and to foster scientific and social political dialogue between Germany and Italy, and of course academics in the academics arena. Within this framework, Fausto Gozzi, which is a professor, one of our best professors in the area of mathematics and similar strange things, is taking, thanks to Fausto Gozzi, LUISS is taking part in the Italian-German training to stochastic modeling of financial crisis. I'm not so sure that the stochastic modeling of financial crisis will be the real stone able to make a start for getting out for the financial crisis, but at least we will remove some strange model that so far was being considered fundamental in the area of finance. And Professor Fama, who had the Nobel Prize this year, is one of the most important leading person in that area. I'm not so sure that Fama approach was the right approach in order to get out from the crisis. On the contrary, many economists have exactly the contrary idea. So that possibly Fama was one of the let's say, the responsible, the intellectual responsible of the situation in which we are. Anyway, out of this story, there are opportunities like this that we want to increase in the future. We have also a relation with the delegate, and this kind of relation are very poor. This is not a good idea. I am expert in this area because I was leading the German-Italian Athenaeum in the last, and was our partner was DAD. So we was working for more than 10 years in that areas, and I'm aware of the many problems that we have to solve in order to go ahead. So fundamentally, we are at the starting point of a process in which we want to clarify our policy, understand if we will be able to move in a more intelligent way for the next future in international cooperation. And so you are particularly welcome because I believe that you are, let's say, the most important person in order to let us understand which are the difficulties or the problems that are coming on with this kind of activity. So I hope that you will be able to intervene, to ask, to make questions, to be part of this discussion, not only just allowing us to say what is our viewpoint for this kind of problem. So welcome to everybody. Have a good job for the day.
Herr Botschaffer, Sie haben das Wort. Dankeschön.
Shall I speak in German, English, or Italian?
English, because of the audience.
Yeah, it's international. But there was a little misunderstanding. My discorso was prepared in Italian. Someone who doesn't understand Italian? Otherwise, I would just like. Otherwise, I would like to perhaps try to translate ad hoc, and perhaps add some of the ideas that you referred to regarding an increase of cooperation between you and European, especially German universities. So in the first place, I'd like to welcome wholeheartedly your initiative to put Germany and Europe at the center of your study day. We have an excellent cooperation already between the German Academic Exchange Service and LUISS. Mr. Bachmann is going to tell you more about it. I think this will be one of the more important points to deepen. As regards the relations between our two countries, you are aware that we are facing some misunderstandings from time to time. I have the feeling, having arrived myself roughly 15 months ago, that this has not always been the case in the past. Something of a better understanding, including a special kind of sympathy, has been lost in the last roughly 20 years. Am I wrong? I remember when I was a young student, the first European country that I went to and visited was Italy. Before my, I agree, favorite France, where I was ambassador before becoming ambassador here, where I had spent quite some time, where I had visited as a postgraduate the École Nationale d'Administration, among others. So still, Italy was the first country to go. This is the Sehnsuchtsland for still millions of Germans, as in the past and in the present. We had millions of Italian Gastarbeiter in Germany. 700,000 have stayed there in Germany and are very well integrated. So and still 9 million German tourists coming every year to Italy, including myself until I became ambassador here, spending in a special corner of Italy in South Tyrol and Alto Adige my summer vacation. And still going on now as an ambassador to do that. This is a basis for a better understanding. I just refer to all of this. Something has been lost, according to my impression, my personal one including, and we have to come to grips with this situation. because, and here I turn to Europe. If you have, someone has seen my CV, you will have seen that I had 2 posts in Paris, that I was for 5.5 years also at our permanent representation in Brussels. So I know Brussels, I know Europe from its roots. And I had quite some chance from extra EU posts in Europe, Eastern Europe, which was my special kind of activities for 50% of my career, spending some time in Prague, in Moscow, and in Kiev, and working for Chancellor Kohl for years in the sphere of Ostpolitik. So just to say, I had a look at what is going on in Europe from the near abroad, but also from inside. Turning back now to German-Italian relations in Europe and cooperation. I will break it down to the cooperation at the academic level. If you go to Brussels and work there in the working groups for your country or within the Commission or within the Council Secretariat, doesn't matter where precisely, after at least 6 months or maximum 6 months, you will get the feeling that Europe is being achieved in Brussels. That your work is of central importance. It's very operational always, even for young people. First secretaries, councillors have the feeling in their working groups that they are working at the roots of Europe and that they are constructing Europe, let alone at the level of director generals. They all feel what we do here, the thousands of people in Brussels, is working for Europe and making Europe. Of course, we see from Rome, but also from other places, this is not correct. The Euroscepticism, which has grown in the last few years to an extent that now everyone in Europe fears that the coming parliamentary elections will end in a kind of disaster by promoting or letting in quite some Eurosceptic and populist, anti-European populist parties from practically all countries, that this is a big risk. How come they are working day and night in Brussels and constructing Europe? And now this. So what I want to say is what's going on here in Rome, in Paris, in Berlin is important. Italian-German relations, I come full circle, is at the heart of the construction of Europe. Not the work in the working groups over there where they are doing useful work. But if we don't come to grips with Italian-German relations, with German-French relations, and you name them, all the other bilateral ones, if these relations among the peoples and the governments don't work, you won't construct Europe. This is my thesis, having worked in Brussels and having worked on bilateral posts as bilateral ambassador. And this is why I'm not speaking pro domo for my actual job, but I work for an improvement in Italian-German relations and a re-establishment of what, in my view, has existed in the past. So I'm aware of quite some criticism at the address of Germany. If you open the papers, Italian papers today, you will see quite some ha-ha. Now the Commission is which is of course not the case. In substance, it's just, I mean, for 3 years Germany has been above the 6% regarding the disbalance and the surplus in export, and they want to just have a look at it. And as I said in an interview 3 or 4 days ago, Germany is aware of quite some thing to be done as regards internal consumption, but also internal investment, public and private. So the criticism from the Italian side is justified, but I invite, through you, and it's in front of you, the Italian commentators and analysts to have a closer look at the problem and criticize Germany, yes, but in a specific way. I will really wait for the first Italian expert to calculate precisely as to what Germany should be doing in doing something more in regarding private investment in Germany, which has been for years 3% below the European, the OECD average for years. So it's worryingly low. This should be made a subject very specifically. And this would be a basis for a discussion. A basis for discussion cannot be Germany should reduce its exports. It's rubbish. We will not even start in the slightest touch to take that into consideration. But for the rest, on the other side of the il rovescio della medaglia, per così dire, we could and should be starting work, and Germany is aware of that. We feel, by the way, that German consumption has been picking up already compared to 2 or 3 years ago. And the same seems to be true as regarding investment, but there we are really at the beginning. And and this is what I said in my interview as well. I mean, there is a tendency, and there is a dynamic which speaks in favor of a correction anyway. Perhaps something more should be done. Let's talk about it then. I'm still talking about German-Italian relations to be improved as a basis for a Europeanization of all kinds of politics. And coming to an end regarding my political assessment, let me add that in my view, in spite of a certain estrangement which has happened in the last 20 years, Italy and Germany could be really 2 pillars for a debate on the future of Europe. We are quite similar in structurally. We are the late nations in Europe, Italy and Germany. We have had quite some parallel developments in recent histories as well, including the last century. We have parallel development regarding the post-war period. We all had our economic miracle, the 2 of us. All this brings us closer, and we have a broken relationship, the 2 of us, as regards the national state, because of our history, respectively, in different ways, but there is something that we have in parallel. So we are the ideal partners for a further promotion of the European idea. On the other hand, the last far-reaching initiative taken by Italians and Germans dates back 25, 30 years back to the Genscher-Colombo initiative, which ended with the Unified European Act. So let's look for something new. The ground is there. The ground is prepared, so to say, and awaiting. And Germany and Italy should be coming together. I strongly hope that after the developments in the last year in Italy, consolidation of government, same in Germany, electoral campaign, we will come back to some ordinary work, including joint proposals and joint initiatives at the European level. I come full circle to my idea from the start, what can be done regarding cooperation also in the academic field. I suggest very strongly that LUISS, as your competitor in Milano, starting with a B, will be in touch with the DAAD to a larger extent. DAAD is the ideal intermediate between for partnerships between universities. They do have the experience. But my favorite idea is to be also in close touch with the economy as such, an industry as such. You are close to Confindustria. On the German side, we don't have such an association. We have something else, which is the BDI. My favorite idea is that Confindustria and BDI be asked to form a joint initiative to promote and foster education in a practical field. Those two organizations don't have to do in the first place with academic education, but they could provide education on the spot, very close to the practice, through the network of their respective members, and which are thousands of companies in both countries. And I think this is the most exclusive and best way to, in the first place, enrich the studies as such, but second, also to promote an exchange between Germany and Italy, to have students closer to the future work that students are supposed to be doing. This is to work in international companies. So this would be my idea to start with. I suggest that you also address Confindustria and BDI to be included as an academic institution in practical joint initiatives. I refer, as an example, to the German-Italian meeting of industrialists, which has taken place 3 times by now. It's becoming a tradition. In Bolzano, they have met again just 3 or 4 weeks ago. This is a very promising initiative, in my view, having seen the benefits of something similar, but has been going on for 25 years in the Franco-German context. As long as the industrialists from both countries meet and exchange on a confidential basis, this is one of the best things that can happen between 2 countries cooperating together. And this should not be done between the industrialists as such, but I have the idea that some of your students should be present in order to be included into the dialogue, to listen but also participate. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Dear Ambassador Schäfers, you really provided not at all a formal speech, but a substantial contribution to our works. And you provided the vision, the bilateral dialogue, bilateral people-to-people cooperation, university to university, should be seen in the framework of a bottom-up reconstruction of European unity, a consolidation of legitimacy in the years to come. That is a vision we share. Bilateralism toward multilateralism. That is absolutely our vision as well. Second, you provided also concrete proposals regarding the academic cooperation. Number 1, DAD is a key element, bridging element between Germany and Italy at level of academic exchanges and research. Number 2, the idea of, that is a new idea, I think Mr. Director Egidi also can transmit also to the authorities of LUISS, the idea of the kind of cooperation between the 2, let me say, friendly and very important association of companies of industry in Italy and Germany, Confindustria and the Deutsche Verband Industrie, in order to create more opportunities linked also to the main task, bridging between education and labor market. Also, this idea of having internship, exchange at level of bridging not only for business but also for economics and law, and possibilities of bridging between the work of labor and the job market and also the education system, particularly the university. That is a new idea, and we will transmit also to the authorities of the LUISS. Thank you very much. I think Mr. Dalmonte, with his very important experience in Brussels and in Rome, can also provide the feedback and some very relevant contribution. You have the floor.
Thank you very much. Professor Egidi, Professor Telò, thank you very much for your kind invitation. And thank you, Ambassador Schäfers, for your very comprehensive presentation, as it were, of both the relations between Italy and Germany and of the more general European framework. Now, you were saying somebody who works in Brussels for 6 months is convinced that he's making Europe, and you're absolutely right about that. Now, I was in Brussels for 30 years, so you can imagine how much Europe I think I've built, you know, a lot. And yet, we are where we are. And I absolutely agree with you that one of the big problems in working in Brussels is that you end up working in a sort of bubble. And a lot of people don't even realize that anymore. And from that point of view, I think that having an experience and coming back to one's own country or going to another country and leaving Brussels from that point of view is a very, very good experience. And that's why I'm very pleased to be here in Rome myself. You mentioned, Ambassador, the importance of, let's call them bilateral relations and how they should be improved. Of course, I absolutely agree with you that what you said is fine, except that from my point of view, as a European institution, I think we have to look at the bigger picture. We have to, and this is our main job, we have to create the so-called level playing field. We have to make sure that barriers come down. We have to make sure that there is a really big single market. So in that perspective, I believe that what the Commission did yesterday is not so far-fetched, because after all, the so-called alert mechanism is there for all countries, and it's there because simply we have to have this initial screening of all the countries to see whether there are imbalances. And I know that it sounds paradoxical, but in a way, Germany is the victim of its own success, because there is one of the parameters of the which are taken into consideration, which is the 3-year average of the current account balance. And of course, we know that it has been over the threshold, which is 6%, for the past 3 years. And that is simply why the Commission has to look into it and has to, study the situation. And in the spring, we will see what the result of that study, of that evaluation is. So I'm not German, but I wouldn't worry too much. I don't think everybody's going to tell you, no, look, stop exporting your BMWs or Mercedes. No, that's not going to be the result of any evaluation at all, I believe. But I think a study is important if you see it in the more general framework of having one big single market where conditions that apply to all countries are equal. So that is the starting point, I think, in that context. Now, I'm very pleased, actually, about this initiative by this university, and I think the idea of choosing Germany as the first subject for this Europe Day is an extremely good one. Given the subject, then, Germany, and given also the very young age, I would say, on average, of the audience, I thought that I would try and discuss a problem which is of concern to everybody, and that is youth unemployment, or the situation of the young in general from that point of view. Now, youth unemployment, or the fight against youth unemployment, is probably at the moment the biggest priority, I would say, for the European Commission. And we are perfectly aware of the leading role that Germany has had, even in fighting youth unemployment. So Germany, as far as we are concerned, is not just an economic driving force. It has also done a lot to help combat this phenomenon. And I think a special word of praise has to go towards the so-called dual system that Germany has in place, and the idea that there is a good transition system between school or vocational school on the one hand and work at the other end. And the idea of combining practical training in an economic business and an education in a vocational school is certainly a winning model. Now, I would also like to underline something else which has been championed by Germany, and that was the meeting that was called in July of this year, was called in Berlin about just that, about youth unemployment. And they put together all the ministers of social affairs, heads of state and government, European institutions, and youth unemployment was the subject of that meeting. Now, something very important is coming out of that. 2 days ago, there was a follow-up in Paris of the same thing, and you may have heard Prime Minister Letta announce that there will be a third follow-up in Rome, very likely in April of next year. Now, there is one particular project that I would like to mention also, which was generated in Germany, and it's the project called The Job of My Life. Again, it's the availability of the German institutions to have unemployed skilled workers and potential trainees come from Europe, come to Europe exactly to do that sort of vocational training and qualified employment at the same time in those sectors where there is a shortage of labor. We think it's a very good example of, in this case, of a single market as such, which allows people to go and find opportunities outside of their own country. Now, as I was saying, Germany as an economic driving force has been and is still a model. I think the figures that we have seen recently confirmed by Eurostat are impressive. We're talking about unemployment rate of anything between 5.2 and 5.4%. We're talking about youth unemployment of 7.7%, which compares very favorably to Italy's 41%, obviously. We are talking about a GDP that is on the increase by 0.5%. We are talking about a deficit which is a non-deficit, because we are talking about zero, basically. So it is also extraordinary to see how during the years of the crisis, Germany has actually is probably the only country where unemployment has actually come down, which is a remarkable achievement in itself. Now, what shall I say? The ambassador mentioned 700,000 Italians. I may correct him slightly because we are a bit lower, a bit less than that. 651,000. This is the official figure. This is the official figure from the registry of the Italians living abroad. Now, what is worrying in that registry is that the number of Italians living and going abroad is actually on the increase. And that is something which I will mention towards the end of my intervention, if I may. Now, when it comes to the European Commission, what does the European Commission do in this context? Well, the European Commission tends to, first of all, there is one important thing to be said. The treaties give very few possibilities, I would say, to the European Commission and to the institutions in general to act on anything to do with unemployment, anything to do with the labor market. Now, let's be absolutely clear about that. The Commission has problems in going beyond the creation of the framework, of the famous or infamous level playing field. The idea of creating a single market, yes, but it's difficult for the Commission to go beyond that simply because the treaties don't allow institutions to go any further than that. So this is the first proviso. In this context, I would say the discussion on youth unemployment in particular and on labor market obviously takes place in the appropriate fora. So we're talking about Council, European Council to begin with, as was the case this year. We're talking about councils of ministers, of course, and more practically, the Commission every year, at the end of the so-called European semester, which goes from end of November to the end of June, the Commission issues a number of so-called country-specific recommendations. Now, Italy was given 6 country-specific recommendations in May-June of this year, and it is interesting to note how 3 of these 6 recommendations basically dealt with either the labor market situation, how to improve it, or the educational system. At the end of the day, the link between the educational system and the job market is considered as vital, and the Commission insists very much by giving guidelines in these 2 sectors. So the so-called recommendations. And then, of course, the Commission has a budget, the Union has a budget, which is normally run by, managed by the European Commission, and that is where we try to devise a certain number of programs, and we try to fund them within the limits, obviously, of our budget. So what has been done? You know that we work by 7-year periods. So 2007, 2013, this is the period, the programming period that's coming to an end. There was something like 7 billion euro, which went towards a program called Lifelong Learning Program. It is the program that includes Erasmus. It's the program that you obviously have heard about, all of you I'm sure, because it's probably the biggest European success story of all times. If we consider that about 200,000 students every year move from one country to another, if we consider that about 3 million people, 3 million students so far have used this opportunity, and something like 300,000 higher education teachers have also used the opportunities offered by Erasmus. Now, how shall I put it? There is more coming because I think the institutions were very much aware of the importance of what I just said, education and the job situation, labor market. And that is why in the new programming period, which goes from 2014 to 2020, the amount of money for this kind of action, this kind of program has been doubled. So now we're talking about 14 billion euros. And the program has been streamlined as well. It's still going to be called Erasmus, but it's going to be called Erasmus Plus. Where is the plus? The plus means that all the current programs that you may have heard of, Leonardo, Comenius, Grundtvig and all that, they were all going to come under one big single umbrella. That is going to be the big umbrella program called Erasmus Plus. And this program is going to basically put together all the other ones that were around, as it were. Now, there are also, although Erasmus Plus will still have as its main objective the idea of improving, through mobility, of improving people's skills. And improving people's skills improves their employability. So if one were to sum up all the European programs in this area, one would have to use these 3 words, basically. Skills, mobility, employability. This is the sort of logical thread, basically, that connects all the different initiatives. And I would like you to remember these 3 words, because that is what Europe is all about, basically, at the end of the day. Making things possible, allowing people to have a chance. And they have a chance, people, if they have the right skills, and they have them at the right time and in the right place. Now, there are some new proposals as well. One, for example, is a loan scheme for master's degrees, which are taken abroad. So let's imagine a student who wants to have a master's degree and doesn't want to have it in Italy, he wants to go to Germany, say, well, that's a good idea. Well, then there will be a loan scheme to supplement any national schemes, so to help students do that. This is something that we find is an extremely interesting opportunity, basically, to go and study in a different European country. At the moment, there is something called Erasmus for Entrepreneurs. This will be continued. It's a great opportunity for young people to go abroad and be, I should use the word, tutored almost by an experienced entrepreneur in another country who will teach him or her all about how to manage a business, obviously a small or medium business preferably. And then we have, last but not least, the Youth Guarantee. The Italian Minister for Social Affairs, Giovannini, yesterday mentioned it in quite strong terms, because Italy has been anticipated money which should have been spent in the next programming period, and the money we're talking about is 1.4 or 1.5 billion euro to be spent for people under 25 who, as of the 1st of January of next year, should be given a good quality, concrete offer within 4 months of leaving formal education. What does it mean? It means that you finish with your study cycle, and within 4 months, the employment center has to come to you and has to say, look, I'm giving you the following choices. This is a job, this is a training opportunity, this is an apprenticeship, this is a scholarship, this is something, you have to do something, and within 4 months, the Youth Guarantee has to kick in and give people a chance. Basically, the idea is to avoid the terrible phenomenon of people not wanting to be in training, not wanting to be in employment, and not having basically any perspective, okay? So this is the Youth Guarantee, which is possibly the biggest new idea and a concrete idea to face and to fight unemployment. EURES. A lot of you may have heard about EURES or EURES, which is a portal which allows you to find a job in another country. That portal is going to be revamped as well. It has worked. It's not maybe the best portal in the world, but it has done its job. And the idea is to put more money in it and try to make it even more known to begin with. Now, I conclude because I think I've overstepped the mark, and I apologize for that. I was mentioning, and here I take off my commission hat, and I just put on citizen's hat, because I've been talking myself about skills, mobility, employability, and the key word there is mobility. The Commission, all the programs, the European programs, are about mobility, because we believe that you have to have the choice, you have to have the opportunity to go and build your own future wherever you want. Okay, that's very clear. Mobility is the key. From my point of view, and as I said, I'm talking as a private individual, what is happening in Italy at the moment is not mobility. At the moment, Italy is suffering from forced emigration, which is a different cup of tea altogether, and which is something that I feel very strongly about myself. As I said, when you don't find a job, when you don't have an opportunity, when there is no meritocracy, when you have all sorts of problems whereby you cannot find a job, you have to go. You must go and find a job elsewhere. That is not mobility. This is not the mobility that we are talking about. As I was saying, and I make this distinction, we are talking about giving people the opportunity. If I were, and I will never be the Prime Minister of this country, that's clear, I know that. But if I were the Prime Minister, so to speak, I would make Erasmus compulsory for every single individual. 1 year abroad. When I was a young boy, we used to go to the army for 1 year. Now, I would make it obligatory, because if you go abroad for 1 year and you work in another context, you come back a different person. You come back as a grown-up. You come back with openness. You come back with different ideas. You've got used to the others. You've got used to understanding what the world is all about. I'm all in favor of that. But that is mobility. And that, as I was saying, we are trying now to give people a choice, to create the right framework. Come down with barriers, single market, go if you can. But ideally, I would like people to come back as well. I think the country would be all the richer. So the message that we have for all countries like Italy, which are experiencing a difficult situation at the moment, is please go ahead with the reforms. Please make sure that your labor market is receptive. Please satisfy the needs of young people. Please make the structural reforms. Please try and converge on the good European standards, on the good and I should say the best European practices that we have seen today represented and explained by the German ambassador, because Germany from that point of view is definitely a case in point. Now with this I thank you very much, and I wish all of you good luck.
Thank you very much, Dr. Dalmonte. You provided in a very nice way a substantial contribution to our work, not only providing numbers regarding policies, and particularly unemployment policy and education policy, Erasmus and so on, but also you addressed the big question of governance. So there is who is competent for what. Very often Brussels is a scapegoat. Very often it's because of Brussels. But unfortunately, the European Union has no power in terms of unemployment policy. This is the problem of the treaty. And I was part of the ones who invented the new method, the open method of coordination, which is the only way we have. Coordinating national policies. We have the only way we have, and submitting the implementation of the national plans to monitoring of the follow-up, which risk recommendation as well. However, some countries don't take care of recommendation. That's the problem, because it's soft law. And unfortunately, several southern European countries, I don't say which one, naming and shaming is not my task now, but one is very close to the place, and don't take care about the recommendation of the European Union because it's soft law. It's not constraining. This is the crucial point which makes the European unemployment policy coordination weak. That is the crucial point. However, Erasmus is truly, as you said, a success story. And we have here examples of this success story, of the opportunities provided for students, for international students. For us, the point of view, the voice of international students in LUISS is very relevant. That's why we cooperate with pleasure with the International Erasmus Student Network. Thanks to, particularly to Alessandro and Margherita, we had the opportunity to mobilize the attention of some international students in this room, and we would like to hear your comments and your point of view, your experience. Provide a bottom-up contribution to our works. Well, the first one is Carmen, coming from Spain, and with an experience in Paris, if I know well. Please, you have the floor. Please.
Ambassador, Deputy Rector, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, fellow students. It's truly an honor and a privilege to be speaking here to all of you today. My name is Carmen, and I have the pleasure of being part of the big group of Erasmus here at LUISS Guido Carli University in Rome. What started in 1987, almost as an utopia shared by a group of European students, is nowadays something palpable. When we talk about Erasmus, we are not using political rhetoric. We are talking about something real, my reality and the reality of more than 200,000 students each year. Other colleagues will talk about Erasmus, what it is, what it means to them, and how this wonderful experience changed our life. Well, I would love to go a little farther. In my opinion, an international exchange is much more than a chance to improve your language skills, much more than a big new group of friends, much more than unforgettable and enriching experience. The student exchange is, in my opinion, a need. I come from a very beautiful country, It's not because I say so, but because every year the World Tourism Organization ranks Spain as one of the 5 most attractive countries in the world. We have unavoidable weather, nice beaches, welcoming people, and so on. But on top of all that, we speak the 3rd most spoken language in the world. And so, we mostly listen to our own music and double all the cinema that arrives from outside. Due to all this, 10 years ago, only the very restless Spaniards felt the need to be fluent in other languages, or moreover, feel the need to have a look to whatever was going on out of our frontiers. The rest of us were very at ease in our cozy homes. But suddenly, our situation changed. The international crisis, accentuated by the explosion of the huge Spanish housing bubble, left our country in one of the worst economical situations in the last times. While for a country, a wealthy percentage of unemployment will be around 5%, in Spain this year, we have reached the frightening figure of 27%. Unemployment preys on the younger population, much of it highly skilled, with higher education and speaking more than one language. For many of us, there's no other chance but to try our luck out of Spain. At the same time, taking advantage of this moment of economic weaknesses and general dissatisfaction, nationalist movements that seek to divide Spain into a ridiculously small set of countries use the crisis in their political benefit, threatening even more the stability of my country. I have had to leave Spain and come here and stay sharing 2 months of my life in this international environment to realize 2 things. The first one, leaving your home country is not a penalty, but a chance. Europe has been designed to favor the flow of professionals across the different member states. We have been enjoying a common coin for a long time now. And now we should start enjoying the benefits of the huge labor market that Europe is. And the second one, when you get to see the big picture, when you are surrounded every day by a group of great people from all around the world that are actually having the time of their lives learning and evolving together, you don't understand anymore why in your country some people keep talking about division when all is about union. The world is more and more global. In this global environment, multicultural teams have proven themselves to be the most efficient tool. The education needs a fundamental complement. We all need a new perspective. Every student needs to understand that cooperation is the only way to face the huge challenge that our future is going to be in this planet, every day more and more populated, and with less and less natural resources. And I cannot think of a better way to understand globalization, multiculturalism, and cooperation than an Erasmus experience. Erasmus of Rotterdam said that for a happy man, all countries are his homeland. And he may be right, because through all this Erasmus experience here, there has not been place for homesickness. We are happy, excited, full of energy, of faith in a promising future. The Erasmus let us taste what Europe is, and moreover, it let us glimpse the greatness of what Europe can become. From 1987 to 2013, around 3 million of students have profited from this Erasmus experience, developing this feeling of common belonging to something greater than their own homelands. Let's keep dreaming big and hope that this number is not going to do nothing but escalate. That's all. Thank you so much.
Well, we have also German students in this house. Lucas will be the first one. Lucas, please. Lucas is coming from Hamburg.
Thank you. Signore e signori, meine sehr geehrten Damen und Herren, dear ladies and gentlemen, why not taking a risk? That was what I thought 1 year ago. In the aftermath of the financial meltdown, in the midst of the euro crisis, the world seemed to be on the verge. At that time, I made up my mind regarding a decision where to go abroad. I already knew that I want to spend 1 term as an exchange student, but what I did not know back then was where my journey would take me. I am a 22-year-old law student from Hamburg, Germany. Germany, even in times of the recession, stands for economic prosperity. Economic prosperity measured by a moderate economic growth and a functioning job market. But even more these days, Germany stands for responsibility in the Eurozone. In recent times, I'm proud of the crisis management of the German government, not only about their achievements on a national level, but also about their role among other member states. They understood it at the right time to provide stability to those who are in need. So the question is, what can I do? How can I take responsibility? Remember, I'm a 22-year-old law student from Hamburg, Germany. What can I, as an ordinary student, do to engage myself in these hard times? Taking action is important in order to change the situation. In fact, it is important to understand the causes of things. In Germany, I felt more like a spectator. Hence, I believe understanding how to tackle the problems is the first step. This belief leads me to where I stood 1 year ago. At that time, I decided to go to Italy. Italy is considered as the country of Dolce Vita. Italy is a rich country, best known for fashion and food, culture and calcio. On the other hand, Italy is one of the countries that are significantly hit by the recession due to the euro crisis. Italy faces, among other member states in the Eurozone, problems on both capital and labor market. Yet, I faced another problem. It is a problem which is not merely of economic scope, but of significant social impact. It is a problem which is not related just to one country, but to all of the European member states. It is a problem which can be described as the lack of mutual understanding among the citizens of Europe. To me, mutual understanding means tolerance between the member states. During these hard times, Europe is on the edge. The crisis feeds Euroscepticism. The media tends to show just one side of the coin. But obscurely, on one hand, Europe is about to fall apart, and on the other, we slowly realize we were never as dependent before. Therefore, we need to take action. Therefore, we need to promote mutual understanding. I believe that we share more than a currency. We share common ideals and values, and I think it's these common ideals and values that unite us beyond banks and bonds. I arrived on the 1st of September, and in the past 2.5 months, I met people from all over Europe. I found about similarities and differences among the member states, amongst my peers. Therefore, I believe the Erasmus program is a unique way of promoting mutual understanding. And moreover, I never thought as much about my own roots before. In this period of time, I became more and more aware of my own background. Therefore, the Erasmus program is not only a unique way of promoting mutual understanding, it is also a chance for self-reflection. It was my decision to go to Italy which made me aware of this problem. So, well, did I take a risk? No, it was more than a reflex. Thank you very much.
Ladies and gentlemen, dear students, good morning. My name is Julia and I am from Berlin. I'm part of the Erasmus program here at the LUISS since 2.5 months, and until now I am really enjoying this experience. So I would like to share with you my experience here. Until now I studied at the Freie Universität in Berlin. It is one of the best universities in Germany, and it offers a lot of different subjects. I myself study law. We have normal lectures like you do here as well, but also other courses in which we learn how to solve cases. All the exams we give are written, and they are all based on real cases. To pass them, we have to think about ways how to solve these cases. From the beginning, we study the basics of criminal law, public law, and private law. To be able to give one of the most important exams after 4.5 years of studies, we need to do 9 weeks of internship before. All of this prepares us very well for our future work. Here at the LUISS, or in Italy in general, you seem to study in a more theoretical way than we do. Since I am here, I didn't need to solve one case yet. It is very interesting for me to see another way of teaching. I noticed that Italian students have an accurate theoretical knowledge, wider than normal for German students. Back to Berlin. We have a beautiful campus with a lot of green areas, parks, a cafeteria, and even a lake. Everybody in Berlin speaks English, and if you choose to come there, you will be amazed to find out how open-minded and polite people are. On top of this, the city is really amazing. There's always something to do, somewhere to go, or someone to meet. No matter what you are into, you are going to find it in Berlin. Furthermore, as a student, you get special discounts more or less everywhere, including, for example, public transportation. The underground buses and trams are completely free. So as I told you just now, how much I like Berlin, probably you're wondering, what am I doing in Rome? Well, it's very easy. I just like Rome a lot as well. The city is beautiful, the history is really impressive, and also here there's a lot to do. I think that it is always a great personal gain to have the opportunity of making different experiences. The Erasmus program offers us students a range of possibilities we wouldn't have otherwise. If, during our time at university, we don't choose to participate in the Erasmus, we will probably finish our studies, find a job, and then work for the rest of our lives. Of course, we will have holidays and travel. But the older we'll get, the more difficult it will become to live in a foreign country. Maybe we wouldn't want to leave our country anymore because we found a good job or we have family and children. Whatever the reason, we miss the opportunity that we would have had now here in university. However, those of us who participate in the Erasmus program, we do make experiences that do change us. We live in a foreign country, often without knowing the language, and sometimes even obliged to interact with totally different cultures. At the beginning, this can be very difficult, but we learn how to solve the problems that might arise. We grow in this environment. We learn different languages, get to know people from all around the world, and start to understand how other countries with their uses and customs function. For really understanding this, it is necessary to have an everyday life in that country. No one can understand how a country works by spending a week there shopping or doing sightseeing. To grasp the essence of a different culture, you have to interact with natives. It was never possible to imagine a Europe as united as it is nowadays. The Erasmus participates in bringing people together and in encouraging them to go in different countries. Like this, we can overcome old ideas and prejudice. When people live, even for a short time, in a different country, they can relate better to the natives. As foreigner, you slowly start to understand things about countries you didn't even consider before. I never imagined that the country we grew up in has such a great impact on our personality. To unify Europe still more, we need to exchange experiences, we need to be more curious, and we need to understand more. This is a process that should never stop, and by joining in the Erasmus, you can keep it going. Before participating in the Erasmus, I had already spent a year in Italy. I noticed that it was difficult to get into contact with the natives, especially because I didn't speak Italian, and a lot of them didn't speak any English at all. Anyway, what I'm trying to say is that now, with the help of the Erasmus, it's way easier. For example, ESN, the Erasmus Student Network, offers programs such as the Buddy and the Tandem program, where it is easy to get in contact with Italians. Apart from that, at the university, you meet natives and you get integrated. I'm very happy to be able to make this great experience. To conclude, I would say that the Erasmus is a great opportunity to learn from other countries. It makes you understand that we have to be more open-minded and more tolerant. I see the Erasmus as a big step towards the destruction of mental barriers. And what about the future? Well, I hope that the European Union will make it easier for everyone so that every single person will be able to travel for an Erasmus year anywhere in the world, beginning, of course, from Europe, where we have realized that foreigners don't have to be and remain strangers. Thank you.
Okay, last but not least, we have a Dutch student coming from Utrecht. We have, as LUISS, a very strong partnership with Utrecht University, supported by your colleague, the Dutch ambassador in Rome, and particularly in economics. Please, Jon, you have the floor.
Why should we look further than our own border? What are the benefits of being part of a European community? For me as a student, it means the opportunity of seeing things from a different perspective. I was born and raised in Utrecht, which is a city in the middle of the Netherlands. And when I had to choose to which university I wanted to go, I decided to stay in the same city. But when I made this decision, I also decided that this could not be the only place to reap the benefits of education. But why not? Well, because staying in the same environment means that challenges are limited. Even though Italy and the Netherlands are not that far apart, Rome teaches me how to adapt to a different mindset. I'm not going to say that one of the two is better, but they are certainly different. And adapting means learning my mistakes, and being open-minded enough to accept that things are not the same as back home. To give an example, in the Netherlands, everything is normally planned well. If a meeting is scheduled at 8 o'clock, it means it starts at 8 o'clock. While here in Italy, in the beginning, I was always too early at meetings, because in Italy, 8 o'clock not always means 8 o'clock. And you can argue that it's bad or be frustrated about the fact that it's not the same as you're used to, but you can also just accept that it's another culture. And I can tell you one thing that makes life a lot easier. Being flexible is important in life in general, but especially in the fast-changing business world. I'm an economics student, so there's a big chance I will end up in an environment where it's be important to be open-minded and not fixed to one perspective. A firm who has not the ability to adapt to certain circumstances in its environment will eventually fall behind. For example, Kodak, which was a company which for almost a century was the most successful company in the camera industry. But at one point, with the invention of the digital camera, Kodak missed out on this big change in their environment. And, well, its stock price is now about 96% lower than was it at peak at 1997. As Einstein said, the measure of intelligence is the ability to change. Back to my own story, to reap even more benefit of the experience abroad, I decided to join the Erasmus Student Network and became an active member of the LUISS section. The network is created by and for students who are willing to work together with people across borders. I want to help this organization as being a member with a different viewpoint. First of all, because I'm in my Erasmus year myself right now, and second of all, because I spent my life living in a culture different from the Italian one. And I'm not the only one who benefits. As my colleague told us already, the Erasmus program is a success story. Each year, more than 200,000 students travel through countries within Europe. And it's not only a big opportunity for me as a student, but it also boosts the cooperation of universities across borders. This cooperation helps the transfer of knowledge. If one thing is important in Europe, it's to cooperate. European countries need each other to develop the skills to compete with the other economic blocs in the world. At LUISS, I'm following a course called Entrepreneurship and Innovation, given by Professor Nate Principi. And in this course, we have to work together in teams which are multinational and also multi-gender. In this way, he tries to teach us that a diversified team can come up with way better solutions than a homogeneous one. This is precisely what we have to teach every European citizen. Working together in an international environment creates way more knowledge than just staying safe within your own borders. I am 20 years old now, but by the time I'm 40, I'd like to live in the same prospering Europe as I do now. To reach this, we need to work together as one big multinational and multi-gender European team. Thanks for your attention.
Thank you very much. We are really, I think we do need, I think the rector agrees with me saying that the contribution of the young students is really necessary. I'm coming from 25 years the Brussels universities was usual because it's a part of our life. They are the driving force of the internationalization of our university. Thank you very much to the students. We can maybe close the first panel with a particular thanks to Ambassador Schäfers for really contributing to our work and to next panel. And Mr. Dalmonte, thank you very much for your contribution. We hope that you can stay here. In any case, we start immediately with the second panel. Thank you very much, Rector Egidi, for supporting our initiative.